All right, everyone, welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am excited for our guest today because we have none other than Dennis Berry is going to be talking with us about harnessing emotional intelligence for success. Dennis, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Damon. We talk all the time, and it's like an honor to be on your show and to talk with you live, one-on-one, see if we could solve some of the world's problems.
Well, if we could just help one person, that's what I always think. If anything we're doing online, if it helps one person, I'm a happy camper, man. And I think it's going to be incredible today with you talking about emotional intelligence. And I think that you are an extremely strong example of emotional intelligence, of what it can do for you, how it can carry you through things. So Dennis, let's start back off a ways because you were an entrepreneur and you did a lot of other things before you're doing what you're doing today with your Heart of Wealth Mastermind group and helping people. So let's start back a ways and kind of walk through how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, and if we go way back to 33 years ago when I graduated high school, I went up to the mountains and I became a ski bum. And I was a chef and I was a crazy maniac party animal. And it was fun for a little while until it wasn't fun anymore. But then I didn't stop. And it was just a crazy lifestyle. And that went on for all of my 20s and until I was about 31 years old. And I just reached the end of my rope. I was physically, financially, spiritually bankrupt. And I got sober, and that was 20 years ago. And
wow,
I haven't had a drink or done any drugs in the last 20 years. And we were talking about smoking right before too, and I quit smoking. I smoked a little bit after that, but to address that, getting sober or not, it's not a not drinking contest. It's about growing up and looking the world in the eye, and it's about being a responsible adult and managing your emotions. And that's what ties into what we're talking about today. And it's not easy for everybody because a lot of our reactions and the way that we respond to the world goes back to our childhood. And that was the reason I was drinking, because I wasn't trained well on how to react to the world when it gets hard.
Wow. I'm writing some notes here, man, because we got some things we're going to be talking about. So you're ski bum, you're past your ski bum days, and you started at the I'm looking through your stuff here on LinkedIn, man. You were at the Rare Coin Warehouse, you were a culinary fitness and sales and marketing, territory sales manager for Cisco. You've done a lot of stuff in your past. What do you think you really learned about yourself going through those different things that you look back on now, knowing what you know about emotional intelligence and knowing what you know now about sober you compared to then? What do you think you would have done differently if you had some of that knowledge and went back today?
Yeah, well, that's that hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. But I mean, just some things you go, oh man, but some things that were good too.
Yeah, sure. And when we talk about like where we are today versus what could have been, it's like all of the circumstances in our life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, they all brought us to where we are today. And you can't change any of them. So the best thing you could do is accept them, learn from them, and use them to propel yourself forward. So one of the things you said where I was Rare Coin Warehouse. That was actually my business. And I built that business to $3 million a year. It was a very good, lucrative business. And that's where I learned the most about myself, was building a business. And entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's a big buzzword people throw around a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, experience freedom, drive Lamborghinis, and travel all around the world and hang out on beaches. That's not the way that it goes.
That's all you do, right?
Yeah, that's not how it goes at all. What it's really about is like financial fear and relationship problems, health problems, stress, overwhelming stress, and constantly revamping the way that you have to go about your business and your life on a daily basis, almost
Yes.
solving problems on a daily basis and doing it calmly. That's the difference. And that's how the difference between I should say, successful and happy people and unsuccessful people, is
Because
that
there's a difference. There's some successful people that are miserable as hell.
and I'll tell you, I know some of those people, a lot of those people, and I have some friends that make less than $20,000 a year that are happier than some of the millionaires that I know. And
Yeah.
money isn't the uh, answer to all your problems. It does buy freedom, and it does take a load off. I always talk about Forrest Gump. Do you remember when Forrest said, "Oh, and Lieutenant Dan mailed me a letter. It was that they invested in Apple," and he goes, "And I wouldn't have to worry about money anymore." And I thought, that's good. One less thing. It's worrying about money. It's like one less thing he had to worry about, but there's still all these other things that we worry about. Money
Yes.
doesn't solve all of our problems. It does. That's just one less thing that we have to worry about. I don't worry about money, but I have plenty of other things that I
Yeah.
worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. So as you're moving forward in that and you're in the rare coin warehouse, looking back at it today, how do you think that helped prepare you for working on emotional intelligence like you do now?
Yeah, that and maybe I didn't completely answer that question. That was because my brain started wandering. But when I started that business, it was actually unintentional. I
Really?
had a couple other businesses that I had. I had a catering company. I made candles. I had a candle making company. I did all these things, and I started, but they were all failing because I didn't really know how to run a business. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started selling coins on eBay to supplement my income. And it kind of took off. I was in the right place at the right time. I borrowed some like $20,000 to buy an inventory and start growing. And that's where I learned, and it took off. And the market hit, like when in 2008, when the market crashed and everybody lost their money, I made lots of money because I was well positioned with uh, commodities and precious metals,
Mm-hmm.
gold and silver and stuff. So there was a little bit of luck there, but the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what happened was I learned a lot about business, about life, how to handle clients, customers, whatever, and building websites, e-commerce, and all the things that go into a business. But I also yelled and screamed a lot. I
Yeah.
also was overwhelmed with stress. I would lay in bed like, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I handling this the right way? And I would invest a lot of money on a weekly basis, thousands of dollars. And I was like, am I getting this back? I had to pay out huge fees. So I didn't manage my emotions well. And this went on for
Mm.
a long time. And now keep in mind, I was sober this whole time. And I didn't have drugs and alcohol to go to like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So what I've learned over the years is that the drugs and alcohol, they're not the problem. It's what I'm using to cope with the real problem, which is my thinking. It's my subconscious mind and the way that I react to the world when it gets difficult. So I used drugs and alcohol. Some people use porn or food or Netflix binging or eating fast food at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, overeating. Those are all the same thing. They're all distractions from feeling and taking care of my responsibilities. So when we start to really understand that on a deep level, then life takes on a new meaning. Our relationships and our businesses take on a new meaning, and we just grow. And life is just becomes more magical that way.
Wow. You said something there that just hit me hard. That, the way we think about things is the problem, not the drugs or the alcohol or whatever it is there. You're right.
And that's
Because go ahead. Go
well,
ahead.
yeah, in our reactions to things, this goes back. I did a lot of work over the years. What brought me to where I am today, it was I started doing coaching for addiction and alcoholism 2005. a couple years into sobriety before I even started the coins. But it was a lot different coaching back then. It wasn't like it is now. Like we used to meet in coffee shops, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
it was a different thing. But over the years, I also did a lot of work with codependency, working with couples and teens, and what we find is that a lot of the behaviors, and there's a lot of psychologists that do this type of work. I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not a doctor, but all this stuff goes back to our childhood. So like
Mm-hmm.
the emotional wounds and our reactions to the world come from being a child. So there's the five. If you look this up, it's fascinating stuff, and it's the source of all of our dysfunction in the world. But there, the main emotional wounds. There's abandonment, which all of
Mm-hmm.
them are stem from abandonment. Fear of rejection, the wounds of rejection, of humiliation, and injustice, and what's the other one? Fear. I'm on the spot right now. Fear of abandonment, rejection, betrayal. Right.
Betrayal.
So those are the five wounds. And what happens is people are like, "Oh, I remember in high school this thing happened to me, and I felt rejected, and that's why I behaved the way I do." But that may or may not have happened. But the truth is, our wounds happen between the ages of like 0 and 2 or 3 years old. And it could be that when we were like 6 months old and we wanted our mom to pick us up, but she was like doing the dishes and couldn't pick us up. And
Uh-huh.
we got wounded in that moment. And what do we do as babies? We start crying. That's what we do to protect ourselves. And as we grow older and we don't learn new coping skills,
Mm-hmm.
we do the same behavior. We start crying, or we start kicking and screaming, or blaming, accusing. We find other ways of coping with that wound, with that pain. And,
Mm-hmm.
fast forward to 15 years old, I was drinking. For me, it was drinking and getting stoned. Those were my ways of coping with the pain, the childhood pain. And if we don't learn new healthy coping skills, and most people really don't on their own, we end up being 20, 30, 40, 50 years old with low emotional intelligence. And we're not qualified to run teams or businesses without yelling or screaming, or being a boss versus a leader.
Yeah.
And that's where all that stems from. It goes way back. And so we can reprogram the way we think, which is the good news, but it's really
Yeah.
hard to do on your own. And that's why it's important to have coaches or mentors in your life to help reprogram the way that we think.
Yeah. So as you're talking about this and what we learn when they're really young, what are some of the things that you see people coming to you with that have been transformations for them, right? Because we're talking about dependency, alcohol, drug dependency a little bit ago, but there's other things. I mean, you talk about anger, you talk about just what emotional intelligence gives people that once you learn better ways to think, as you said. What are some of the things that you see people, the improvements you see in their lives and their leadership skills and things like that when they start to really think about emotional intelligence and make some of those hard changes?
Yeah. And it requires work. And when you do the work, it changes not only the way you do business, but your health, your relationships, all relationships. I mean, all of our lives are really relationships, whether it's friendships, family, sexual relationships, business relationships. They're all relationships. And we all have we don't realize that because they're different, obviously. And we don't put them in the same bucket, but fundamentally they are similar. We react the same way with our spouse and our bosses. We just don't realize it. It might come out in different form, but we're still overreacting. So once we learn where our behavior comes from and how we can react or respond differently, then it transforms our entire lives, all of our relationships, the way that we lead our teams, the decisions we make to grow our businesses, the way we respond to our spouses when things don't go our way, or our children, or the way that we respond to people that have different political points of view. Like everything is different. We become basically what I said earlier. It's not about not drinking. It's about being mature. It's about regulating your emotions. And that's what emotional intelligence is. It's identifying your emotions and responding intelligently, and also the emotions of others. It's having empathy. It's listening intently without thinking about what you're going to say next or interjecting your opinion or your point of view. And when you start behaving that way, everything in your life is transformed. And then we stop taking things personally, which is a huge, huge obstacle in our lives. Like when we start taking things, that's like the 4 agreements. When we make assumptions on the way people feel about us or think about us or what they're going to do next. So we're very skeptical, right? We approach everything with a skeptical stance, and then we can't grow or learn or be successful when we're so skeptical. And skepticism is a big problem in business and for our relationships too.
Oh yeah.
In every area of our life. So stop making assumptions, stop taking things personally, and stop being so judgmental about people. And and we start becoming comfortable in our own skin. And when we are, we don't need to behave that way. There's nothing to defend. And when you don't have to defend anything and you're just living from your heart and your mind and you're centered, then you can do anything you want. You can build businesses, you can travel the world, you can be healthier, find love, or improve your relationships.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Because I mean, you've hit a ton here, and to people listening there, I'm going to stop just for 1 minute. I want to say, hey, Michelle, great seeing you today. Ryan Marshall, we got you here today too. Thesha and Kaustov, great to see you. So, just want to acknowledge you guys. Thanks for dropping the comments in, and man, you just dropped a ton there, because I learned something, and I'm not well versed in this like you are, and you said it again today. You talk about, we get input, like something happens, we get somebody says something to us, and you mentioned this earlier. It's how we think, and a lot of times we're just boom, it comes right back out. And to me, when I think about emotional intelligence personally, it's giving me my work on emotional intelligence is giving me a split second or 2 or 3 or 4 to go, now how should I respond to that, really, rather than just puking out what I would have done 20 years ago. Tell me about that. I mean, is that something that you see people doing as they do the work and start becoming more emotionally aware and intelligent? Is that they're really starting to think about, hey, that person just insulted me, or that person just said they love me, or that person, is this or that, or I'm in this situation, and now they can just go, oh, and then this is how I should think about it. And then they take the time to do what they want. Is that at least part of what's going on in people that are working on their emotional intelligence, is really thinking about things before they respond?
Yeah, and it happens in a split second. The more you practice it, the more intuitive it becomes. So our goal is really to have non-emotional responses versus emotional reactions. And it comes from living mindfully, right? So if we're living mindfully, and that living mindfully takes practice. There are very few people that are born with that calm, emotional, intelligent, that being. And I've met some of them. We all have, and we look at them in awe. We're like, how can you be so calm and cool and collective and humble and empathetic and all that? And for the rest of us, though, the other 99% of us, we need to work at it. And for me, it had to come in the form of being mindful. And that is everything. People are looking for the magic solution for that, and there isn't. Well, they make pills and Xanax and stuff, but the truth is like it really comes down to mindful living, meditation, exercise, taking care of your health, and all those things. So those types of responses are the result of living well. So when we're living well, there's no need for those types of reactions. So for me, it starts in the morning. I always say, win the morning, win the day. A lot of people say that. It's a comment. I can't claim to. I didn't come up with that, but it's the truth. If I wake up we have a choice every day. When we wake up, how we want our day to go. So if I wake up and I grab my phone and I look at Facebook and look at my friends' differing political opinions, or I watch the news and I get upset and worked up, and that's the way my day goes. And then I wake up and I eat something sugary for breakfast, drink too much caffeine and sugar, and then I'm off to the day. I get in my car and there's a traffic jam and I'm giving the finger, and that's the way the whole day goes.
Yeah.
But if I wake up and I'm mindful and I could sit for a moment and I could be calm, centered, I like to meditate. I meditate every morning, but you don't have to wear orange robes and sit in the Himalayas for 3 months to meditate. You can meditate on the toilet. You can meditate in bed. There's 3-minute guided meditations to get centered and focused, and read something mindful. Read a passage from your favorite book. Read something that's going to inspire you. For me, I like to write down my 3 things for the day. People write these long, I have to do these 30 to-do things, and we don't get any of them done because it's impossible. It's overwhelming. So I write 3 down that are going to make me successful. So before I go to bed at the end of the day, those 3 things are done and I'm successful. So I could do more after that, or I can go get ice cream, right? Because I got my 3 things done. And now I'm set up for the day. Yeah. And then I get up, I go for a walk, I drink a ton of water, I get hydrated, and it's like I'm untouchable. Nothing is going to really break me, even something really dramatic. It's like, because I'm going to be non-emotionally responsive, intelligently responsive versus emotionally reactive, because I set my day up that way. And for most of us, it's a daily thing. There's very few people that I could just say, oh, on Monday, I'm going to set myself up for the week, and then I could just meditate for 3 minutes on Monday morning, and then I'm all set. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. It's kind of a rinse and repeat thing, I think. It's going to do it over and over.
And over again. And it's like because life happens every day, especially in 2023, and we're all so sensitive, and everywhere we look, even if you don't watch the news, you open an app, you get the news. So it's like you can choose to react to it, you can get upset about it, and then you can take that disturbance and carry it into your day, into your coworkers, your employees, your spouse, the way you eat, the way you manage your emotions, or you can get focused and centered and brush that stuff away and enjoy your day.
Yeah. And how much the thing that I've really seen, and when you talk to people that have worked on their emotional intelligence, is how much you can talk to somebody that's worked on living mindfully and emotional intelligence, and they can have something bad happening to them at that moment, that day, whatever, that week. And it's not that it doesn't affect them, but it doesn't drive them into depression or crawling up in a ball in the room. It's like, yeah, it really sucks. You can hear it. It really sucks, but I'm doing this.
Yeah. And that's a great point.
It's not like everything is, it's not some panacea where, it's going to be, elves and fairies. It's just that you're starting the day out right. And someone told me, I forget who it was. I was reading a book or something, and they talked about a pop can. They said, if you take a soda can, an empty soda can, and you can just crush it super easy. And they said, your mind is kind of like that. And living mindfully is really about filling that soda can completely full in the morning with goodness, with love and calm and everything that you want to have in there. It says, because then try to crush a full pop can and see how hard that is. And things just bounce off you. They're still there, but they don't crush you like it would if you didn't do that work before you start your day. And
yeah, and that's great. I mean, it's important. I love that you brought that point up, because I'm saying it from as if the way I just described it was as if I'm perfect and I wake up and meditate and it's rainbows and unicorns. And that's not it at all. And one of my favorite books is The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up,
Yeah.
and by Mark Manson. And that he talks about, it's like most of our problems come from trying to live a problem-free life. And that doesn't exist, right? We're going to have problems. And in fact, happiness comes from solving our problems, not by avoiding them. We're going to have problems. We need to take risks. We need to wake up in the morning and go out into the street and do the things that we want to do. And while we're doing that and building our lives and businesses and relationships and going exercising or doing whatever it is, we're going to encounter problems because that's life. And along the way, if I'm focused and centered, those problems, they can make or break me. It's my decision. And if I set myself up for the win, they're going to make me. If I set myself up for failure, they're going to break me. And I mean, it's a simple equation. You can calculate it. You could watch it happen with certain people, with their behaviors. A lot of young people, they're trying to figure life out. They're banging their head against the wall. They're yelling, screaming, punching holes in the walls, drinking, ruining relationships. As we get older, I think some of the stuff we're talking about, you gain some wisdom just by getting older. We're in our 50s. I think you are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, as you get older, you learn some of this stuff through pain. Like we experience pain. We're like, wow, this sucks. I had a old mentor. He said to me, he goes, I practice the isn't that interesting technique. And that's good emotional intelligence. It's like when something happens, I can go, oh shit, fuck. I can get mad and yell and act out, or I can go, isn't that interesting? And then move beyond it. And it sounds silly, but it's just a little tool that I use all the time. When somebody says something stupid or different, or things don't go the way I plan them to go. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. That's a good one. Well, I love just the power that being able to choose your reaction, the power that it gives you when you can actually do it, right? I think of little things like people are angry in traffic, or they want to cut you off in traffic. And you can just wave to them and go, hey, that's cool. Go ahead. You must have someplace you need to go.
They're drunk. So if we go back to, because my background is in the alcoholism and addiction recovery, they're drunk, right? That behavior is the same thing as getting drunk. That's a distraction from feeling. When somebody does that to you, and when you're in traffic, it has nothing to do with you. Something happened before that at home, at the office. They are having money problems, health problems, or relationship problems. And something else is going on that made that happen. Or they left too late too. Which is probably a result of one of those other ones. Yeah. So when you see people acting that way, it has nothing to do with you at all. It's all about their lives, and because they're not managing their emotions well.
Because someone said, I've read, or someone said it again that I've heard a lot of people say, when we're worrying about what someone else thinks of you, we really shouldn't be, because they're too busy worrying about their own problems.
Exactly. That's everybody's thing. And they're not thinking about you at all.
No.
That's the thing. And when you realize that and you move forward with that, and you could do that in the moment, then life changes. It really does. It really does change for you, because people aren't thinking about you. Not the way you are, not the way you think that they are. And if they are, who cares? That's their problem. That also has nothing to do with you. So when we carry these feelings into our business life, a business really improves. And, like I said, your leadership skills, your decision making, every area of your business life, since this is a business show, improves. And people come to you, they trust you more, you get repeat business, because when whether you're interacting with customers or employees, people respect you more, because they're not afraid to come to you and talk to you or ask you questions, and they trust in you more, and you build foundational relationships that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you see people starting their work on emotional intelligence, if someone came to you today and said, Dennis, I really want to work on this, how long do you think it's going to be before I can notice a difference in my life?
Tomorrow. Yeah,
Really?
because the very first thing that we need in order to change, in my book that I wrote, that I don't really talk about much anymore, I had what I called the how approach to life. How people say all the time, Dennis, how do I build my business? How do I fix my relationship? How do I lose weight? And the answer is in the question. It says honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. How do I fix my life, right? So the very first step is honesty. I have to be honest and say, there's a problem, because I can't solve a problem I can't admit exists. So when I say that tomorrow we can notice changes, it's because there's an awareness now, right? So the very first step is there has to be an awareness. And now if we start talking about, I need to improve my emotional intelligence, now you're aware that you need to improve your emotional intelligence. So then we come up with some tools right away. The very first thing that I start with right away with all my clients is writing things down. It is the best way. We all know this by now. It's like we all have like 60,000 plus thoughts, 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, right? And our thinking is the source of all of our problems. That's almost 1 per second. So if all of those thoughts were happy, useful, productive thoughts, we'd all be billionaires and have no problems. But most of those thoughts are useless or even harmful, right? So we need to slow our thinking down so we can eliminate a lot of those thoughts. And writing is the best way to do that. So if we come in contact with an emotional situation where we overreacted, we drank, we yelled, screamed, blamed, accused, gave the finger, whatever it is that our emotional reaction was, we want to write down, bring awareness to it and say, what was I thinking? What happened, right? That's number one. What was I thinking right before that happened? Because that's the real problem. When somebody relapses and goes out drinking, I always say, what were we thinking right before you took that drink? Because that's the problem. It was usually finance, romance, or health, right? Something related to that.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So then we start digging into that, So if we write that down, what happened? What was I thinking right before that happened? What was my response? And how can I respond differently next time? So when we write those things down, we're slowing our thinking down. We can't just think about it because the thinking is the source of all of our problems. So that only adds to the problem.
Yeah.
But when we write it down, it becomes tangible. It's like we're organizing our thoughts. And now, subconsciously, the next time that situation comes up, it's there. Like, oh, that's right. I wrote that down. So Damon said this. It made me react this way. And now, next time that happens, tomorrow or next week or next month, I could say, oh, it's not that big a deal. I don't need to react that way. That's how change starts. We have to reprogram our subconscious mind, which again was programmed 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah. We've lived with it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's great though. Writing it down is a huge thing. I can see how that really makes a difference, because when you go back to that thing, what was happening right before, you really understand what you were thinking about. That, say, like when just before you said something to me, I might have been thinking something already, and you said something to me and it set me off for whatever reason. But that thinking, that what I was thinking about before that, and the combination of what you said is what it was. So the thinking started me down the wrong path.
Yeah, you were triggered. And that trigger, that's the 30, 40, 50-year-old trigger.
Yeah.
And so and it can come earlier. It can come beyond that. But the original trigger comes from our childhood wounds, from our parents. We love our parents. Even we're parents too. But at the same time, it's like you could be the best parent in the world, but you're screwing them up somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
somehow, because at some point they get their own personality. They want life to go this way. You want it to go this way. You're bending each other to try to get them on your side, and it doesn't work. So you get triggered along the way. You develop these coping skills. So you can be triggered by past relationships too, but the original wounds go back to childhood. So identifying the triggers, and then writing down what are other responses I could have, other behaviors I can have, healthy behaviors next time that this happens, because it's going to happen again until the day you stop breathing. You're going to be triggered by something or somebody.
Yeah. I like that. Identifying triggers and then writing down some healthy behaviors. So when it happens again, you got some options. You at least choose from a list rather than just.
Yeah. And again, this is all in addition to mindful living.
Yeah.
Taking care of your health. Like, we think we have all these problems, but you don't have any problems until you have health problems. Now you have a real problem. So protect your health. Stop eating sugar and crap. Over processed foods.
Yeah.
Exercise and drink as much water as you can. Right there, you do those three things, like your life, you're going to think better, talk better, act better, and react less.
Yeah, that unfortunately in the United States, the convenience of food around us has also led to the downfall of our health in many different ways. Man, we got Curtis Tompkins is stopping in today.
Curtis.
Yeah. But because you talk about healthy living, and I think that, and mindful living and being healthy is part of that. I just don't know, looking back, how you can do it without getting at least somewhat healthy, because it's so hard. If you're having, for me personally, overweight, eating bad, and you do some myriad of other problems, when those start to go away, or you get them under control, then you actually can think about living more mindfully and doing the things you can. But it starts with that health. Like you said, if you don't have health, you don't have anything.
And our bodies and minds are intimately connected. People don't think of it that way. But if you're sick or unhealthy, I mean, I'm not going to label it in certain conditions, but really, if you're obese, unhealthy, whatever you want to call it, you're not thinking clearly. Like, you might think that you are, but our gut health, people talk about that a lot. It's very real. If our bodies are not healthy, our minds are not healthy, and we're not responding well. So, it all starts with our health, and that should really come first. It's like the oxygen in the airplane. When that comes down, they always say, put it on yourself before your children, because if you die, you're not going to be able to help your kids. Yeah. Same thing. Your health needs to come before your business, your relationships, and everything else. Because if you don't have your health, you don't have your business or your relationship.
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of people flip them. A lot of people flip that. So I don't want to get off here before we start talking about your Heart of Wealth Mastermind group. You've got a mastermind group. Have you started one yet, or are you getting ready to start one? What's going on there?
Yeah, no, it's going, and it's awesome.
Okay, cool.
I've had 3 meetings, and in fact, in a couple months, we're going to have Mark Victor Hansen come speak. Victor Hansen was he was the co-author with Jack Canfield of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, nice.
So he's going to speak at the group, and I have some other great speakers lined up, and we meet twice a month. And then in the group, we also members get one-on-one coaching with me once a month. And it's a great group, but we focus not just on business strategy, which is, of course, integral, and we'll bring somebody like you in for real business strategy in addition to the topics we talk about. But we talk about emotional intelligence too, because it's the same thing as your body and mind being intimately connected. So is business strategy and emotional intelligence. They're intimately connected, because if one is off, the other isn't going to do well.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's a great group. I encourage people to reach out if they have questions about it.
Yeah. Very cool. So as you're seeing people, business leaders go through this, what are some of the comments you get back when a business leader that looks at you and they said, I really haven't thought about this, the whole emotional intelligence, or really working on my mind and my body and everything to help me better in business. What are some of the things that they're saying after they're doing this a while?
It's the same thing that we were talking about. It's like you feel better, your life just improves, and you walk lightly through life.
Walk lightly. There you
Yeah,
go.
and that's really the goal. It's like we want to, like, there was one of the I love talking about, like, when we're young, it's like there's all these mile markers that we reach. When we're 13, I'm a teenager, and then when I'm 16, 17, I can drive. I'm 18, I'm an adult. I'm 21, I can drink. Like, all of these milestones take forever to get to. And then as we get older and older, like, it goes faster and faster. But then life gets heavy. It's like we have all these responsibilities and all these things that we need to take care of. And it's because we're not managing our emotions well. And when we start to manage our emotions well, we can live much more lightly. I know one guy who I've talked with him, and I have his permission to talk about this, but he's worth 9 figures. And he inherited this money. His great-grandfather invented the clutch.
Wow.
The automobile clutch. So, and he ended up being partners with Henry Ford. And so he inherited a lot of money, and as you might imagine. So, but what he does is he told me this story. We became friends, and we went out for dinner, and his wife and my ex. And he told me once, he goes, they go and play golf, and he meets with all these people that are leaders at the top of their game, business owners, all worth 9 figures, presidents, owners, CEOs, all those types of people. And he feels left out. He can't contribute to the conversations. He's unhappy because he didn't build his own wealth. Like, he inherited it. And so he's unhappy. But we did a lot of work on emotional intelligence too. And now he walks much lighter through life. We're all on a different path.
Yeah.
But we have to learn, like, Don Miguel Ruiz says, it's like, don't take things personally. The world's not out to get us. Don't make assumptions. Just do the best you can on a daily basis. And life becomes better because I'm not worried about the things that most people are worried about. The one, like when we were talking about the fast food and stuff like that, that's the same thing as drugs and alcohol. When we were growing up, my dad used to take us to McDonald's like once or twice a month on the way to work. On Saturdays, I would go to work. And we weren't sick and obese. It was like a treat. I had one of those greasy egg McMuffins and a hash brown, and it was a treat. And Dad was the best in the world. He was like a hero. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, we went back and had another one. And now the problem is excess, right? So the problem is not sugar or egg McMuffins, right? It's just too much. So now we eat all that stuff all the time, and it's an addiction, but it's a coping mechanism for the heaviness of life. It's the same thing as drinking or whatever. Why is there a line at Chick-fil-A all the way around the building at 3:00 in the afternoon? Right? Because there's a gap in the day and people don't know what to do, and life is heavy. And so they eat stuff, even when they're not hungry. So when we can take away that heaviness of life and you can walk lighter through life, you become more successful. Like, you become immune to anger, frustration, sadness. And not to say you don't feel those things, but they don't have the same weight that they used to have before. That's the power of emotional intelligence. And I should add, it's an ongoing thing. Like, we never arrive at this place where we're perfectly mature and don't ever get angry or any of that stuff. It just doesn't happen that way. It's an ongoing effort, and it's great. It used to be a chore to meditate. Now it's like, great. I have 20 minutes. I'm going to meditate. I'm so excited. So we look at things differently. And that's the magic. That's the magic that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, Dennis, I am so pleased that you were able to stop by and talk with us today, because, man, you have you have really dropped a lot of good stuff here, and I'm so thankful that you were here to share your thoughts with us. Where's the best place to get a hold of you, Dennis? Is it get on LinkedIn? Where should people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, well, obviously because we met on LinkedIn where we're both very active, but my website is dennisberry.com. But if you want to go connect on LinkedIn, that's fine. Then there's a LinkedIn masterclass that I'm doing. It's free. It's
next week.
Next Wednesday, the 19th.
Yeah.
It's free. I'm going to just say every single thing that I know about LinkedIn that other influencers are charging $1,000 a weekend for. I'm going to drop it all in that masterclass, and I'm going to have it. It's going to be a monthly class. We're just going to do it and talk about everything.
Oh man, Dennis, I am so excited for that. I'm excited just to get to talk with you again and share your thoughts about, emotional intelligence, because there are people that are living, as you said, far too heavy of a life. And if they learn how to really work on the things they can to live differently and work on their emotional intelligence, they can live a lighter life and be much happier and much healthier.
Yeah. And can I drop one last thing?
Yeah.
Here?
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that we say this all the time. Like, if you don't know how to get somewhere or do something, ask for help.
Yeah.
We try to do so many things on our own that we don't know how to do. And at the end, we just bang our head against the wall for another week, month, year, or decade. When if we just ask for help, we can get there so much faster and more effectively. Not just faster, but more efficiently, and enjoy the ride so much more. So if you don't know how to build your business, if you don't know how to get healthy, if you don't know how to fix your relationships, it's not just ask Dennis or Damon. Ask somebody that you know for help and get there. There was always, before there was Google Maps and Waze, and we had to know how to get places. But we would get lost, and there was that stereotype about men who didn't like to stop and ask directions. I always stopped and asked directions. I was like, I want to know how to get there instead of driving around for 2 hours like an idiot, wasting gas. Yeah. I just want to say, look, hey, do you know how to get there? And 2 minutes later, I can get there. It's the same thing now. It's like, if you don't know how to do something, ask for help. That's the power of our mastermind group, is that we're sitting in a room or on Zoom with other peers that are trying to figure out the same path in life, how to grow our business, improve our lives, our health, our relationships. And we bounce ideas off each other with our expertise, and we get there quicker.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how, ask a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, a friend, somebody you respect, and you'll get there much faster.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, thanks so much for being here today. Again, thanks so much for everyone that stopped by, that was listening, drop comments. Again, we had Dennis Berry here today. We're talking about harnessing emotional intelligence for success. Dennis talked about his mastermind group, talked about so many things. You just got to rewind this thing and go back to the beginning to really learn some of the things that he talks about to live life lighter. I love that phrase, to live life lightly. Or walk through life lightly. I've had my notes here. Thanks so much for being here today, Dennis.
Thank you, Damon. I appreciate you, man.
All right.